Welcome to Under the Hood Podcast. In this podcast, we pop the hood and give you an inside look at the hows and whys of our ministry here at Cornerstone Church. I'm Michael Nave, your host. It is an absolute joy to welcome you to this episode of our podcast. And if you've been around Cornerstone for any length of time at all, you know what I know, that week after week, it's like we have the privilege of participating in a top-notch Christian worship event week in and week out. And today, we have the privilege of having the guy who leads the team, our worship pastor, Dustin Keel. Dustin, it is so good to have you here with me.
I'm excited to sit down and talk.
And it's been a minute. Like, you and I got to do episode 3. We were talking about this tension between excellence and vulnerability. And so we had a great conversation there. And then just this past week, we celebrated 8 years of you being on our team. Some pretty crazy stories. Nathan invited you to participate in what we called back then a worship internship.
That's right, yeah.
But then he said something about 2 other guys had to turn him down.
Yes.
And then Ali had 40-some job applications because you were headed to Nashville.
That's right.
That's the year you got married, and then you guys were going to move off to Nashville.
Yeah. Crazy story of how I came to be a part of the team here. It was a thing where Nathan approached me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this opportunity? I'm asking because, I just want to know, I've already offered it to 2 other guys. They would both have to tell me no. But if they do, should I come to you with it?" Sure. If they say no, then and that's how it happened. It's crazy. Wild. Yeah. My wife had applied to 40 different jobs in Nashville. And her prayer was, God, make it so clear where we're supposed to be.
Yes.
And so she heard nothing back, not a single word from 40 employers. So, yeah.
And she's an incredible teacher.
She's amazing.
She's awesome.
She's awesome, yes.
And so here it is. God had to shut 40 doors, get 2 other individuals to turn Nathan down, so you could be his third choice to the prom. Is that kind of what it was, And so, okay, just incredible now to see what's happened over the last 8 years as you not only did that internship, but stayed. You not only stayed, but now it's your ministry. You lead our worship ministry. And so back when we talked before, we were talking about vulnerability and excellence. And then in another episode 14, I talked about how I put sermons together.
Yeah.
So we'll have a series and the sermons and how we do all that. And today, what I want us to talk about is, how do you put a worship service together? So week after week, inviting us into the presence of God, how does that even happen? So take us to the beginning. How does a worship service get put together at Cornerstone?
So we kind of pick up the torch from you and the planning that you put into series that are coming up and the messages that are going to be a part of that series as you kind of sit with the Lord on that. And then we get your outline, your notes, and we take it and we have a meeting with the leadership of the worship team and sort of just look at that at kind of in a macro level where it's okay, what is this series about?
Yeah.
And we might build a song bank from that. Here are some songs that I feel really connect with the heart of the series. And then we'll go more granular and look at each week, what's the text that's being taught on that week, and what do we get from the notes that you've given us about kind of where you sense the Lord taking that message and kind of that service, where is it heading and what's it trying to say to the people. And then we try to just pick songs that amen that message and give people an opportunity to respond in ways that really harmonize with that.
Yes.
And so it's very logical in some ways. It's some songs seem like obvious choices because the lyrics say certain things, and other times it feels very spirit-led. It's kind of a combination of those kind of 2 feelings when we're in that space trying to plan. that's kind of the overview of kind of how we approach it.
That's really helpful. Now you mentioned a song bank.
Yeah.
How do songs get in the bank? How do you choose? Is it, it has to be a top 100 on some Christian chart? Are there certain, how do you choose a song that is readily available to be placed in a worship service?
There's just so much great worship music out there. And so I'm glad I'm not the only person that's leading this team. So there's like several of us who are just listening, just kind of keeping an ear out for new good stuff. And there's certain artists that we tend to like just jive with their stuff.
Right.
Like if they have a new release, we want to make sure we check it out. But the reality is like there's so much music that we love that we don't get to do. And the reason is we need songs that cover sort of different ground, that create opportunity for different types of response and connection to the Lord. And so we might really love a song, but we've already got 4 songs in our repertoire that sort of say the same thing.
Right.
And so, we'll listen to it at home in our private devotional time, but it won't get to be introduced in the congregational setting. So mostly I'll say songs get added to our rep as the team sort of like hear them, listen to them and say like, oh, I think this one either covers some new ground or it says something. It fills a slot where maybe we need a fresh song. Like the songs that we usually use in that space maybe are getting a little bit stale.
Okay.
And so we just want to refresh it and kind of, I'd say those 2 scenarios are represent the lion's share of how songs get added.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really helpful to understand. And just the reality of there being some great worship songs out there and some are great and still won't make it into our lineup publicly, but would be in private worship. That's really, really helpful to understand. Now, jump in there and speak to this incredible level of excellence that your team presents songs, opportunity to worship, like truly week after week. And just to be clear about this, your team is a group of incredible volunteers. I mean, you're on staff to lead us in worship. Rochelle's a brand new resident, which we're really excited about. We have Chesney on staff, but her job is mostly behind the scenes.
Right.
So in general, we are being led by this incredible group of volunteers. Like we don't have this professional band that we brought in from Nashville to lead us. And they are fabulous. I mean, just the level of excellence that is presented, it is so inspiring. Yeah. What do you attribute the level at which your team presents at?
I think there are a few things that I would mention if I was going to talk about that. And one of them is that we're talking about mature fruit of a long process that led to this point.
Yes.
I think that's an important thing to recognize. Another thing is that they're gifted people. Mm-hmm. There are people who are truly gifted in this way, serving on the worship team. And in a lot of churches, you have people who are doing it because they saw a need and nobody else was doing it, and that is a noble thing to do.
Yes.
But we are blessed to be in a position where we get to be served by people who are like gifted and called specifically in this lane. And then there's a culture development that we work together. All of us are working on our skills and abilities, investing in them and seeing them grow. And so over time, it just increases. And the thing that makes that possible is something that I inherited. And that's a culture on the team of real humility. Yeah. Nobody on the team has an ego. Nobody's like thinks that they've arrived and is too good to like keep growing and take lessons and that kind of thing. Like there are people who I'll talk about singers, sing on our platform who are like album quality and they take lessons regularly. And so, yeah, I think it's I think it's like a combination of all those things: the character, the culture, the gifting, and then just the patience with the process, the commitment to the process. Yield some good fruit.
Yes. Oh, it does. That is really helpful to understand and appreciate that humility that then leads to development, that then bears fruit. Describe, for those of us who are a little bit curious, I mentioned Chesney and some of the tools she gets to offer to vocalists, and then you have development process for musicians who have an instrument. Can you give us just a little taste of what's happening behind the scenes as those individuals are developing their gift?
Yeah. So for anybody who is even interested in worship ministry, interested enough to audition, we take time to evaluate their skills and to point them forward on their journey. Like, here's what you need to take the next step to improve, to grow. And some of those people don't yet meet the threshold to serve on our team. Some of them do. And once you're at that point where you meet the threshold to serve on our team, we invest financially in your development. We pay for some resources. So for our instrumentalists, we're lucky to live in an age where there is just so much available. There's a resource called Worship Online. There are different online kind of training resources where you can basically take lessons, right?
Yes.
And so we pay for that for instrumentalists, we pay for that for our vocal team. But the expectation is like, you're going to use it. You're going to do it. And then Chesney and I both have been certified as vocal coaches. And so we do voice lessons with team members. And we're passionate about giving people everything they need to be successful and to continue to grow. So I think I touched on kind of the major things that we offer there. But yeah, we try to support.
When you have those individuals who are gifted and who are humble, willing to grow, the fruit that comes from gifted individuals stewarding the gift that God has given them is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Talk to us about flexibility in a worship service. As a preacher, I'm regularly asked, do you ever change your sermon? So when you present a worship service, the songs have been chosen, you use some technology to support, lights are programmed, all of that stuff. How do you make a change if the Holy Spirit prompts you or stops you or nudges you to say something? Talk to us about flexibility in being led by the Spirit to lead us in worship.
Yeah, so we invite the Holy Spirit in from the beginning as a part of the planning process, and we believe that He directs us as we plan. And one of the ways that we just marvel at that showing up is that sometimes we'll plan a service and you'll feel nudged to make a change, like a left turn or whatever, and it's insane how well the teaching and the music still align. It's almost comical, and it's like, well, the Lord saw it coming, so He wasn't surprised. But when we're talking about a specific service, when we look at sort of the plan, the flow, the layout of how things are set to go, you can sort of visualize it, and there is a sensitivity to, this might be a place where there's some flow, where the Lord might want to do something spontaneous. And so all the time we're trying to listen, but there are some places ahead of time that we're kind of sensitized to, like, okay, this may be a place where we just need to kind of pay attention because more might be going on than we know. So in a given weekend, we have 3 services, Friday, Sunday, and depending on just how we feel the Spirit leading, they may look very different from one another. So yeah, we're trying to listen, and it's funny, like, and you probably sense this too. When something really works in a service, there's this temptation to like want to reproduce it.
Yes.
But I think like we're trying to learn how to let the Lord be dynamic and let Him do specific things in specific services where certain people are present that he wants to do that thing in, and maybe not another time. And it's a learning thing. We're still trying to learn.
It is. I really appreciate you sharing that tendency, that temptation to try to reproduce it, because I do the exact same thing in a sermon. It'll be like, oh, that was so good. How do I redo that? And sometimes I force it too much. Yeah. So I really appreciate you sharing that. How about production?
Yes.
Alex Crane over our production team. What an incredible group of gifted individuals as well. How does worship leading and production go hand in hand? I think in the past, I made the mistake of saying, oh yeah, production's really good if you don't know they're there. And now I'm realizing, no, Michael, we are multi-sensory beings, you know, sights and sounds and everything with the human, our senses is a beautiful expression, can be a beautiful expression of our worship.
Right.
How does worship and production, how do you and Alex do that together?
We have a wonderful relationship with each other, and we really defer to each other in our areas of expertise. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So much trust there. I'm passionate about that team because I think many people can think of them as kind of show and like they don't have spiritual substance. They might be tempted to think that way.
Right.
And I just recall like the images of the tabernacle and how the directions that were given by God were for this place that had vibrant colors and gold and ornate designs. And it was about creating a space that engaged the senses, just like you said.
Yes.
Created a sense of awe that in this room, like this is a unique space. This is a special place. So what they're doing is important. And it was God's idea.
Yes.
And they work so very hard. I was watching an online service back this last week and just really marveling at people who, again, are gifted in that area.
Yes, they are.
And the ways that they've leveled up that experience for those who like that weekend, their church experience is online, it's broadcast. But there's care taken to serve them and just respect them so much. I don't know if I really answered your question, but I love collaborating with them. Yes. There are times when I want a little more time on the platform and Alex has to tell me no, and I just have to say, okay, you know.
So good. Your opening phrase of we defer to each other in our areas of expertise. Like there's incredible respect, one team to the other, one leader to the other. What a beautiful place to start. And as you called out the tabernacle, multi-sensory from the beginning. Right. And yes, sure, we add new technology to it as we go, but the same principle in play, invited in a multi-sensory way to worship the Lord. Which takes us to our next series.
Yes.
We have a new one coming up, which you and I were working on yesterday.
Yes.
Really stoked about that. What are you excited about in this next season for our people as they worship in a new series, new teachings? What's coming up that you are excited about?
I am so excited for our people to get to learn and be invited to grow in what their worship life looks like.
Yeah.
I think that so many people are stuck inside a box because they just lack training and teaching in this area that there's such richness available to people. If they'll just take a look at kind of the biblical precedent for, man, what does this look like? This whole like worship thing? What's it meant to be? And I know it's going to challenge some folks and it's going to be uncomfortable. That's the nature of following the Lord, right? Like we're over and over again called out of our comfort zone into more. And I think that that's what this worship series could be for individuals, for our church on a larger scale. And I think it's an opportunity just for blessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
In our meeting yesterday, just to begin to sense where God is leading us in this series, in this next season is so exciting. It will be stretching for us. And as you said, I mean, that's part and parcel to following the Lord in Him taking us with Him where He wants us to go. I am so thankful you stayed right here in Southern Illinois. I'm so thankful that God shut those 40 doors on Allie.
Me too.
so that you guys could stay here and lead us. Dustin, one of the things I most appreciate about the way you lead our worship services is your desire to see others using their gifts, developing them to their fullest extent. You willingly share the platform. You willingly place other people in positions where they thrive. They use their gifts. They inspire us to worship the Lord. And under your leadership, they are thriving. Our people are thriving. We are worshiping God. Thank you for your leadership here. I, too, am excited about this next season. It's a joy to serve with you. It's a joy to follow Jesus with you.